Hello, everyone. Welcome today. I'm Jana Hill, the Adult Services Manager for the Fort Worth Public Library. Welcome to today's program, the second in our week-long Business Equity series. Join us each day this week at noon to learn more about support and resources available for local women and minority-owned businesses. If you've registered once, you can attend all of the sessions without having to re-register. So it's a really handy little link to have, and you can just follow it any day this week. Supporting entrepreneurs and small business is an important part of the Fort Worth Public Library's commitment to nurturing opportunity here in Fort Worth. Today, Christina Brooks and Cheryl Jones from the City of Fort Worth's Diversity and Inclusion Department will tell you about their new Business Equity Division and its services for women and minority-owned businesses. Tomorrow, we'll host Tracy Irby from the TWU Center for Women Entrepreneurs, who will give practical advice on the steps to starting a new business. Later in the week, we'll learn about free library resources for business research and funding for women-owned businesses. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Christina Brooks, the City of Fort Worth's Chief Equity Officer and Director of the Diversity and Inclusion Department, and Cheryl Jones, Business Equity Project Coordinator.
Good morning. Well, it's afternoon now, officially, 4 minutes into the afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. So happy you were able to join us. As Jana said, my name is Christina Brooks. I'm your Chief Equity Officer for the City of Fort Worth and the Director of the new Department of Diversity and Inclusion with the City of Fort Worth. Our department is fairly new. We're a little over a year old, and we're comprised of 3 divisions specifically. Two of the divisions existed in some form or fashion prior to the creation of our department in October of 2019. I came on board as your Chief Equity Officer in December of 2019 and hit the ground running. So of our 3 divisions within our department, the first is Civil Rights Enforcement, which is responsible for enforcing our city's non-discrimination ordinance and fair housing, fair employment, public accommodations, ADA, and Title VI programs. Our second division is our Business Equity Division, which Cheryl Jones is a part of that division. Our Business Equity Division is responsible for not only compliance with the city's newly amended and updated Business Equity Ordinance, but also, more importantly, to really focus in on building capacity for business equity firms. And here in Fort Worth, we call them business equity firms. Other cities may call them minority and women-owned businesses, or MWBEs. But here in Fort Worth, we know that the makeup of our demographic population actually suggests that African American, Hispanic, Asian, Native, and Indigenous business owners actually make up the majority of our city's demographic. So we want to be true to and accurate in how we characterize them. And so we're after equity in business, and so that's why our programs and our new ordinance is called Business Equity. And then our final division within our department is Municipal Equity. So if you're familiar with the history of Fort Worth, several years ago, the city had convened a race and culture task force, a group of over 22 residents from the community that came together to look at some of the issues surrounding race and culture in Fort Worth, and identified 7 key areas and made 22 recommendations. Those areas are criminal justice, economic development, education, governance, health, housing, and transportation. And so our department was actually formed out of the governance section of that of those recommendations, and my position was also created. So let's get into a little bit of why you're actually tuned in to join us this afternoon, and that's really talking about business equity. We have a whole week planned to focus on it, but we want to dive into how our department supports those efforts. Now, I mentioned before that our department actually last year completed or updated our business equity ordinance. And that is the local law that kind of guides how we want to prioritize and support our local small businesses here, but particularly our small businesses that have been underutilized or underserved. And as I stated, those include African American, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American or indigenous business owners, as well as women-owned businesses. And so we look for ways to make sure that we're supporting them, certainly with how we actually spend city funds, and try to dive a little deeper than the numbers and figure out what are some of the barriers that may be preventing higher participation or more equal participation of those business equity firms. And we try to solve for X. We try to figure out what those problems are and look at what resources we have from the city side to address those disparities. And so our business equity ordinance was largely driven by the completion of our disparity study, looking at how the city utilizes business equity firms in contracting and procuring goods and services and construction with the city, with city funds. And so based on that report, we made some changes to our ordinance, and there are some big changes that I think will be pertinent to you all on this webinar today. Number one is probably kind of revising where and how business equity firms can participate. So originally, we were in the original language, it was restricted. Business equity firms were kind of restricted to a program where they could participate as a prime contractor, come in as a prime, only on contracts up to $100,000. Well, when you think about the fact that we have an almost $2 billion budget in the city on an annual basis, and for the purposes of that disparity study, we looked at several years, about 5 years of contracting data and about $1 billion in spending. Most of the money, you're not going to get a whole lot of it if you're only looking at contracts with that small dollar amount. So we made those changes in our ordinance to make it possible for business equity firms that are owned by Hispanic, African American, Asian, Native, and Native American-owned businesses and women-owned businesses to be able to participate in contracts over $100,000. So we didn't just open the door, we broke down the wall and making those opportunities accessible to business equity firms here. And so we also, based on the data that was provided in the disparity study, looked at what our marketplace actually is. Where do we do business? Where are the businesses that are awarded contracts with the city? Where are they coming from? Where are they located? And based on that information, we were able to assess that it's not just the city of Fort Worth. It's certainly a much larger marketplace than that, and it includes Dallas County, Tarrant County, Johnson, Parker, Wise, and now under the new ordinance, we can also consider business equity firms' participation towards goals that are coming from outside those traditional counties and into Collin County. Any other county where a business equity firm can show proof that they've actually done business here in Fort Worth. So those are some of the major changes that took place with that ordinance. And everything that we do is about, again, identifying barriers, working directly with our business equity firms to make sure that we want to become more of a speedboat rather than an oil tanker moving slowly. We want to be able to identify problems quickly and find solutions quickly so that business equity firms have equal and fair access to contracting dollars. And so another major shift in the reorganization of our priorities when it comes to business equity is kind of repurposing the role of our staff within business equity. And so most of our staff originally were strictly kind of very numbers driven on the compliance side. Establishing goals, looking at contracts at the end of, or contract completion to see whether or not those goals were met. And that was pretty much the extent of the interaction of our staff. Now, our staff is more of a partner with project managers and decision makers before a contract is even advertised. They're sitting down with contracting departments and working with them to make sure that the language that is that's in any bid advertisement or upcoming contract or any advertisements, whether that's an RFQ, a request for quotes, or an RFP, a request for pricing, or ITB, invitation to bid, all of these different types of opportunities for participation. We're looking at those things now to make sure that there's nothing in there, or at least we're reducing any language that may present a particular barrier for business equity firms. Things that we may not have considered as being a barrier, but looking at the outcomes when we use that language helps us determine, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this so that everybody can participate on an equal playing field. So they're partnering not only at the beginning of the process, they're also partnering throughout the process, making sure that any business equity firms that have been awarded contracts fully understand what the expectations are, working with project managers to identify any challenges early on so that we don't wait until things get so off track that we have to change a contractor or in the middle of a project, but we're trying to be more proactive. That's probably the biggest word that we use around here these days, is trying to be proactive. And it's a heavy lift because we're changing systems in an organization and an industry that's been around for a long, long time. So the change isn't going to happen overnight, but we've been seeing incremental improvements along the way as we make these changes, and these changes are being implemented across the board. So those are kind of the key things: the change in our staff focus, the change in that $100,000 cap being removed from our city contracts, and then just the support network that's available within our department. So we know that we can't do it all by ourselves, and that's why we have some great business equity partners and so that support any local business equity firms, everything from business plans, helping with business plans, to understanding finance and your business finances and documenting your business finances. We have two really strong partners in that space, and that's the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We also work with the Regional Black Contractors Association, the Regional Hispanic Contractors Association, NAMAC, and NAVA, National Association of Black Accountants. So there are a lot of acronyms here, and we can certainly, if you go to our website, you'll be able to see some of our business equity partners, so you don't get so tied up or confused about all of the acronyms. It's a lot, but you'll be able to go back to our website and see all of that information. So that's kind of a brief overview of our department. What I wanted to do is address some of the questions that were submitted to us, and I'll go through some of those, and then I'm going to turn it over to my trusty sidekick for the day, Cheryl Jones, who's going to talk a little bit more about some of the resources that are available to you as either emerging business owners or entrepreneurs, or if you're just thinking about it. We've got resources for every business stage that you can imagine. So the first question that I want to answer is that came to us. It says, what's the fastest way to get certified as a minority or a woman-owned business? Is online the fastest way? So that's kind of a trick question to me, because it depends. It's going to largely depend on how organized and accurate your business financial and administrative documents are. Most of the certification process will require some, couple of forms, anywhere from, depends on the certifying agency, anywhere from a couple of forms that you have to fill out to upwards of 20 pages of forms that you need to fill out. And you will have to attach or provide lots of documents regarding your business, financial documents regarding your business. And so it can take, 90 days or 3 months, or it can take double that, 180 days or 6 months. It just depends on how well you keep your records and how quickly you respond to the certifying agency that you choose. So there are lots of different certifying agencies that are available to you, and I'll get into those different certifying agencies in a minute. But I want to go into the second question, because I think that'll be a nice segue into the certifying agencies. So the second question is certification done by state, or are there separate ones for each municipality the business serves? So that's a great question. And there are lots of different ways that you can become a certified either minority business enterprise or an MBE, a woman-owned business enterprise or a WBE, a disadvantaged business enterprise, which is a DBE, a veteran business enterprise, which is a VBE, or a hub agency, which hub stands for historically underutilized business. And there are 3 levels of certifying. You can be certified at the federal level for federal contracts. You can be certified for the state, and you can be certified at the local level or individual municipalities. So at the federal level, let's start there. There are a couple of different programs and different ways that you can be certified. There's the 8A Business Development Program, and that is through the Small Business Administration Program. It's typically for minorities or disadvantaged businesses. It's time-bound, so you have typically 8 years. They made a small change because of COVID, and anybody that was in their 8th year that in 2020, now they have an extra year because it's kind of unfair to cut them off when they didn't have a chance to actually fully participate during COVID when everything was shut down. So this is the only exception where any businesses that are certified as 8A will actually have 9 years in the program instead of 8. The second type of federal program is the Small Disadvantaged Business. And so disadvantaged businesses are defined as socially disadvantaged individuals who are or have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias within American society, just because of their membership in that identity group. So it has to stem from circumstances beyond their control. So sometimes people always, like, well, I'm not sure. Do I qualify as a disadvantaged, small disadvantaged business? We have those definitions available should you have any questions. The other three is they have women-owned small business programs at the federal level, as well as veteran business enterprise programs at the federal level, and then hub zone certifications. At the state level, there are a couple of different ways that you can get certified. You can be certified as a hub at the state for Texas state, and you do that through the Texas Controller's Office of Public Accounts. And then there's also TxDOT, or Texas Department of Transportation, is also another way that you can gain certification. And then at the local or regional level, there are lots of different ways that you can do it. There are a couple of cities in Texas that have their own certification process. Austin and Houston have their own certification process, but there are a couple of other agencies that are more regional. So we have the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Supplier Business Development Council. There's the Women Business Council Southwest. There's the Southwest Minority Supplier Development Council downstate in Texas. And then we also have the Women Contractors Association. Corpus Christi has a Regional Transportation Authority certification. And then up here where we are, we use the North Central Texas Regional Certification Agency, and it kind of combines all of these other smaller organizations into one, so it's just kind of almost a one-stop shop. You can apply for certification in several different areas through that one agency. And then downstate in Texas, there is the South Central Texas Regional Certification Agency. Now, a word of caution in all of these certifying agencies that I mentioned. Not all municipalities or state agencies that you want to do business with recognize certifying agencies. So you have to be really kind of diligent and make sure that the certifying agency that you're working with is actually one that municipalities, states, and federal government agencies will recognize. Case in point, certifications from the Texas Small Business Association or the Texas Certification Directory are not accepted by the Texas Water Development Board or the United States EPA. So be really careful before you spend time and resources certifying. Make sure that that certifying agency is one that is accepted wherever you're trying to do business, whether that's locally or regionally or at the state level or at the federal level. The next question that came through is about the certification process. Is it the same for nonprofits and for-profits? So most certifying agencies have for-profit business requirements. And the caveat there is most of the time they use the 51% ownership requirement, whether that's 51% ownership by a disadvantaged individual or a minority, whether that's African American, Hispanic, Asian American, or Native or Indigenous. And so sometimes for-profit companies it's kind of tricky for them to meet that requirement. Not saying that they can't be certified, it just means that in some cases, depending again on the certifying agency, there may be certain steps that would be different but equivalent and documentation requirements through the certification process. Next question is, where do you find a list of the city's RFPs or requests for proposals or any of our bids? And the city of Fort Worth has a web page that's devoted to that. It's through our financial services or financial management under purchasing. And there are buttons that you can click. Right now, we currently have about 30 open bids in the city, but you can search over 1,000 previous or closed bids to see some of the awarded contracts in our system. And you can search our database by typing in a keyword or a phrase. So if you're just want to focus in on food service, or if you want to just focus in on concrete and sidewalks, you can type in that keyword, and it'll bring up not only all of the open bids, depending on what you set the filter at, it'll also bring up previous or closed bids that had that specific activity. Last question I'm going to answer, because I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for Cheryl, is are your department services available to those outside the city of Fort Worth? Absolutely. Like I explained earlier, the way that we have rewritten our ordinance, it doesn't just mean the city of Fort Worth proper. We provide services to business equity firms in our marketplace. And so our marketplace is different from just the city of Fort Worth boundaries. So it extends into all those counties that I mentioned earlier, Dallas County, of course, Tarrant, Parker, Johnson, Wise, and even into Collin County and in some other counties if the business equity firm can prove that they've done business with us. So we provide services across the board to anybody that is interested in doing business with the city of Fort Worth. Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more that I want to get to really quickly. This question is about, are there any micro grant opportunities coming up? And I hope I'm not stepping on Cheryl's toes, but I did want to make sure that I mention this before I turn it over to her, because this is a really big issue. Access to capital has been a long-standing issue when we start talking about business equity firms, African American, Hispanic, Asian, Native, and women-owned businesses. So during the height of COVID-19 last year, Fort Worth actually provided about 1,640 grants for a total of over $54 million in grants. That's the kind of stuff you don't have to pay back, just to our local small businesses. So about 32% of those grants went to minority business enterprises or business equity firms, and about 3% went to nonprofits. So for all of those nonprofits out there, there are definitely opportunities. So that was called Preserve the Fort, and that process is closed. But what I will say is that if anybody was listening to the previous council work session, we announced our intention to use some of the the ARPA funds, oh gosh, I just lost what ARPA stands for. American Recovery, American Recovery Plan Act funds to support capacity building for business equity firms here in the Fort Worth marketplace. So be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for more good things to come to address access to capital challenges here in our Fort Worth marketplace. So now I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl Jones, and so she can go into a little bit more detail about all of the great resources that are available to you here in Fort Worth. Cheryl, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. Great information. I hope you guys were taking notes because this is this type of stuff that'll help you grow to that next level and just be ready to participate and do anything that you need to do. So, I want to start by just a standard saying knowledge is power. Okay, so I work with the Business Equity Division, and my direct job is working with our contractors, our subs, our primes, our different city departments, and just looking at the contracting and procurement opportunities that exist. And once we see and we identify those, our first option is to see can we add a goal on it so that we can have minority participation with the projects that are happening with the city of Fort Worth. So that's what we're doing on this end. But what I need everyone to be aware of are the other resources that are out there for people who are looking to start a business, have already started a business. Like I said, knowledge is power. So I encourage everyone to continue looking for those resources. I first commend you for being a part of this class because that's the start. And you know, a lot of people think, well, start a business right now, think I'm going to grow my business right now with all of the different challenges that have been going on. But this is still an opportune time. And reason being is because things have slowed down a little. You have a little more time. You have a little more resource connections, so to speak, to kind of get you where you need to be so that when the ball really starts rolling again, you're ready. So take this time and this opportunity to look back and focus on yourself, your business. What is it that I want to do? What is it that I'm doing? How can I do it different? How can I add pieces in it at this point that are going to help me sustain? Or, you know, that word that everyone says, pivot. I think that's the word for 2020. I had a cohort that started saying, no, the new word is swizzle because it adds a little more spunk and flair to what we're having to do. So at this point, you're going to be thinking, okay, well, if I'm going to need financing, I need to start working on my finances. I need to look at my credit report. I need to see what monies I have saved up that I can utilize. Who out there are giving funds to small businesses? And those grants that Christina mentioned are very important because there's so many different cities and entities and states that are giving, literally giving monies to small businesses during this time. So always check your websites and the internet and everything to see what's coming up next. But this is the time to look at all of that to say, okay, what do I need? What skill do I need? What am I a little weak on? What am I a little strong on? Because a lot of businesses, they're taking their side hustles and they're like, hey, well, I might as well make money with this now. And that's a very good fact. Or they're looking to retire, you know, or you've just fallen out of the regular business marketplace. Yes, consider being an entrepreneur and being a better entrepreneur. One important point I wanted to mention also is when I said about looking at your credit, because at some point as a business, you may need financing. And the first place most lenders are going to go to, first be aware of your banking institutions, but also be aware of the other entities that exist out there. Crowdfunding is a big one now, other processes, but you have micro lenders, and I'll tell you a little about a few of those as well. But know that every one of them are going to start with looking at your personal credit. So, and they're going to look at those, you hear all the time, those C's of credit. It's character, capacity. I probably won't even remember them all right now, but email me. I'll kind of give you some more details on them. But you're looking at capacity, the ability you have to pay back. So start looking at your monies, your finances, your income, your character, how well you do what you say you're going to do. Hence, your credit report that says how well you cover your debts and so forth. And then you're looking at collateral. Sometimes there's collateral that they will accept, but know that you first have to get by the credit scoring. and the capacity to pay before they even consider that you have collateral. So there are a lot of different tips and hints that you need to know as you're getting ready to like take this leap or build this, dream even bigger. And I tell everyone, everyone has an idea of what they want to do. It's just doing it and making it happen. So take this opportunity now to get some training, to find out the resources that are available to you. And what I want to do today is real quick, just introduce you to somewhere all of you should know already, and that's the James Gwynn Entrepreneurial Campus. And that's always called the best kept secret, which we don't want it to be a secret anymore, but it's the best kept secret in Fort Worth. First of all, the services, yes, are available to anyone over the DFW area, but it's housed here in Fort Worth on I-35 in Rosedale. On that campus alone, you have 3 different entities and buildings that have a ton of resources in them. And this campus came about basically as a strategic effort or a strategic objective to help small businesses, to help the economy, to increase the revenue flows that we're going through. And so therefore, we opted to do educational workshops, counseling, access to capital, technical assistance, networking, events, everything that you can do and need to know, you can find out on this campus. And one word I just said, networking. Never forsake the power of networking. You should have business cards everywhere you go. You should have a business card. You should have an elevator pitch as well, so that you can tell someone in 30 seconds who you are and what you do. So those are just some little tidbits that I'm kind of like thrown in there for you free while we're doing this as well. So that's very important. Who you meet, where you go, make sure you're the right places, have that elevator pitch, and have your business cards. So James Gwynn Entrepreneurial Campus. We have 3 buildings on the campus. The first building closer to Rosedale is called Accelerate DFW. It was formerly known as IdeaWorks. It's more like a general business incubator accelerator. So you can qualify for office space there, especially if you're going to be hiring staff and hiring employees to help the economy and your business. You have opportunities for events that they have, as well as coaching, training, and hands-on type help. The building next to it is called Tech Fort Worth. And Tech Fort Worth is a technology incubator. So if you are developing any type of technology, they have all of the resources you need to be exposed to. They have think tanks, they have attorneys, they deal with the intellectual property piece, even the going public piece. And they also have a ton of training, events, workshops, and things to help you with your technology or whatever you're building that's tech related. And so the final building on the campus is actually the first one you get to when you drive into the parking lot, and it's called the Business Assistance Center. And most people probably know it as the BAC, the BAC. So at the Business Assistance Center, we have several partners, and all they're doing is focusing on growing your business, helping you sustain, helping you start it, and then helping you get to that next level. So to give you a few quick examples, we have in the building, we have the 2 main leads that do a lot of our training, coaching, and counseling would be SCORE, and that's a national agency, and also the Tarrant County Small Business Development Center, Tarrant Small Business Development Center. Both of those offer workshops. SCORE has a wealth of workshops in any area. If you're a business or even if you're an individual and need certain skills, check their website. They're listed at, I believe it's fortworthscore.org. And you'll see all the classes. They have just general information on their website. They also do counseling and coaching, industry specific, in any category, any industry you need. And the coaching and counseling is free. I'll repeat, it's free for coaching and counseling. The workshops have a small nominal fee that's very affordable. The Tarrant Small Business Development Center offers a few classes, especially if starting a business class. It's very important for you, regardless of what point you are in this business venture. But then they also have free one-on-one coaching and counseling as well. And again, I say free coaching and counseling in any category that you need. If it's in your finances, if it's in marketing or what have you, you need to contact them. They're both located at the Business Assistance Center. So, along with that, we have other partners there. We have lenders. We have the William Mann CDC, and then we also have Alliance Lending, and they're doing larger loans for the businesses that are needing them. More so of the user-friendly lender, like I call it, small business, you'll find micro lenders. On the campus, we have People Fund, and they are a lot more user-friendly as far as credit scoring, down payment requirements, and different things like that. So that's an option for you in lending as well. Also at the center, we have the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce that offers events and training and as well as free counseling. We also have Southeast Fort Worth houses there. Our very own city's Economic Development Department houses there. The Regional Hispanic Contractors Association is there. And I'm trying to make sure I catch everyone and I don't leave anyone out. But you get the purpose, and the point is go visit the Business Assistance Center. And it's right there at 1500 East Rosedale. And it's right on the corner of Rosedale and I-35. It was an old elementary school building. You can't miss it. So take that opportunity to engage. And remember, your chambers are a good source of information. Of course, the library is an awesome source of information, but you also have a lot of other advocacy groups. We have an advocacy group relationship with the U.S. Pan Asian Chamber of Commerce Southwest, with also the Women's Business Council Southwest, the Hispanic Chamber, the Native American Chamber. And so there are a lot of other resources out there for you to take advantage of. And so the one last thing I'll also remind you of, you can get a wealth of information online. If you can't get out in person now, as a matter of fact, most of the training classes right now are all online. They're all virtual. So that's a lot easier for you to handle. But you can go to sba.gov, the Small Business Administration, and you can virtually ultimately look up anything you need to know about a business. Marketing, you can look up writing a business plan. You really, really should have a business plan. I'll interject there. There are some business plan competitions that are going on that you need to take part of. But a business plan is what's going to help you decide what you're going to do, how you're going to do, so that you know if you're on the right track or not. So online with sba.gov, you can get a wealth of that information. You can learn about the accounting piece. I encourage everyone, you have to keep your business and personal finances separate. Form your business entity, but you also need to be prepared for doing business in the new business world. So you can go there on the SBA.gov website and you can find out about QuickBooks. You have to have some type of accounting system. QuickBooks is one of the most user-friendly, most popular ones that are out there. So basically just kind of giving you a real quick overview of everything that's out there that's available for you. I've put in our links to our specific department, the purchasing department, where you can register to become a vendor to do business with the city of Fort Worth. I've also listed the link to purchasing where you can see our current opportunities that are out there for you. And I've also listed our office as well as my contact information. Drop me an email if you need additional details. But if you don't take anything else away from the session today, take away the resources. And mostly you're familiar with being certified. That's an opportunity for you, an additional opportunity to get business. So do not forsake that. Pick your correct industrial codes. Make sure you totally complete all the information on the applications. Decide who you want to do business with and what certifications they accept, so that you're prepared for that. And if you secure additional certifications, they all require pretty much the same detailed information. So make sure you have a complete package together. The speed and everything that happens is based on your completeness to get it all put together. So that's all I'm going to overwhelm you with for right now. Our call to action to you today is to look for those resources, to identify some piece of training that you personally or as a business owner needs. And I realize also that there have been some really difficult times. You are not alone in that. Everyone has been experiencing it. So we're learning a new norm or a new way to do things and a new way to do business. But I encourage everyone, please take time to rest and recuperate and rejuvenate, and above all things, breathe, because we're going to all make it through all of this and come out even better. So that's my piece, okay? And so we can take some questions now.
All right,
And,
I've got questions for you.
okay.
All right, so we'll start with this one that's in the Q&A. Do you recommend having more than one coach or mentor as a woman or minority business owner?
Good question. I'll start answering that, and if Christina wants to add in, we'll swap in and out. I want to give her the opportunity since she's my boss. In any regard, yes, because you'll find that some people may present it to you better or in a way that you can better understand it. There are also personalities that come into play. And so you really do need to shop who you're more comfortable with, but then sometimes you have to stretch and go to where you can get the right information from the right person. But sometimes there's a little variation in the information you get, and then you can kind of determine, discern, and weed through, okay, exactly what needs to be done and how. But it doesn't hurt to have more than one. I wouldn't say 5, 6, 10, but it would not hurt unless you find the one perfect one.
Yeah, and I would just add to Cheryl's comments that it's also going to be dependent on the mentor's or advocate's expertise, area of expertise. Not every person is going to be, have everything that you need. And if they tell you they do, they're probably jack of all trades, master of none. So you want to be sure that you pick the mentor that has the strength where you have a weakness, and so you may need more than one mentor or advocate in that case.
Very true. So when you go to get the counseling and the mentoring, know the categories and the area you need the information, because that, as Christina said, will determine exactly who you speak with and getting you to the right person.
That's great advice, even beyond entrepreneurship. Just
yeah, it is,
and
really.
in adulthood, that's some great advice. So a question that came in for the chat: what would be the advantages of registering your company with TAD, the Tarrant Appraisal District?
Yeah, so one of the Tarrant Appraisal District, if you register with them as a business, they are responsible for 73 taxing jurisdictions. So yeah, it's a pretty big group. So that's one way to kill, one stone killing 73 birds. So that's a good. That's always a good thing to register your business with them, and you'll be notified. If your business matches any of the open bids that they have that are either on the horizon or that are open currently, you'll be notified of that. So it's kind of an easy way to get a wider oh gosh, I just lost the word. But you have access to 73 jurisdictions instead of just applying for one.
Cast a wide net.
73 different taxing units in in Texas will know who you are and know you exist.
Right.
All right. You were talking about a number of local organizations, especially the ones over at the back, the Business Assistance Center. Which of those organizations will help you write your business plan?
Very good question. Okay. The operative word there is help. Okay. Not write it for you. Okay. You can get input and skill from both of the Fort Worth Black Chamber of Commerce can also help you, but the SCORE has a session on writing a business plan. They will talk to you one-on-one. They will help you as you write each of the pieces, but you have to have your information already. And the first start to that business plan is you've got to do your market research to determine your industry, your target market, as well as your competition. So know that first. Go to the table knowing what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. But SCORE will lead you and help you through it. They have templates. You can also find templates online that are free, so you don't need to buy any real expensive hardware, software, or whatever it's called to write your business plan. It's a basic outline that you can find. The SBDC also will help you write the plan, but do not pay anyone to write a business plan for you, because it's your knowledge, your skills, and your passion that you're putting on paper and selling. And so when you're sitting in front of that lender to request money, or whomever, a buyer, a partner, a client, it's your skill that's going to come out. You're not going to have time to go back and say, okay, let's see, what did they write in my business plan for me? And not only that, when they write it, they don't capture the essence. And do not let someone say, we will write your plan for you for this amount, and we will guarantee you afterwards that you can get this amount of financing. No, doesn't work like that. I've heard a lot of issues with that. So seek guidance. There are basically 12 parts of the business plan. You can actually go sit down and have coaching and counseling when you start to write each piece, but go there with something already.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on Cheryl, this is also another area that you have to really be diligent and be careful on who you get help from. There are some instances, there have been some cases where people have paid for business plans and then they sign them not knowing the small print says that they basically gave a percentage of their business away to the person that wrote their plan, because they weren't very, they didn't look at the fine print. So please, 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 the resources that we provided, they've been vetted. We've worked with them as a city for a number of years, and we believe that they'll provide free, trustworthy services to you.
Exactly, which comes with confidentiality also.
If you're at a point where you're just doing beginning your market research, your consumer research, definitely tune in for our program on Thursday, because we will give you some good, free, reliable sources for that. So next question, got a couple more that have come in. Where's the best place to start for inquiring on business grants? I don't feel I'm in the best position, credit or collateral, for business loans. Mixing personal finances with business finances, not so great. Agree.
Okay. I would say the best place to start is kind of what I mentioned earlier. Start with checking your credit report. See what's reported on that report that you can fix, you can clean up, you can change. Now, another thing, I'm not really good at saying, hire someone to do this for you. A lot of it you can do yourself, unless it's a time factor. If information is correct, it's very difficult to take it off. It will come back, and they can come back and put things on your credit in different ways, in different versions, at different times. So you can start out by first researching the things that you can clear up, that you can get straight, so that you know what's on your credit report before you go looking for financing. Also, then make sure you have your own money. Okay. In other words, you need to have some skin in the game. Okay. So don't go to a financial institution thinking that, okay, I need $100,000 and I need you to give it all to me. Really? How much are you going to put in and what do you need it for? So your next thing is you need to understand what you specifically need monies for your business. Once you've cleaned up your credit, you need to figure out what kind of funding, financing. Is it for equipment? Is it for capital, working capital? Because every type of financing could be a different type of lending tool. So you're going to need to know that. So work on your credit, look at what cash that you have available to put in the deal, then know exactly specifically what you need. Then your next biggest thing is to get in front of the right lender. Okay. You cannot talk to a consumer loan or, person about a business loan. So you first need to make sure you choose maybe one or two or three financial institutions. It could be a large bank, a small bank, a community bank, a middle-sized bank. It could be a micro lender, but choose about two or three and go sit down and have a conversation with them. Don't jump into filling out an application because it's going to hit your credit every time you fill out an application, and they're basically just going to try to cross sell you other stuff. I was a banker for 20 some years, but I was a better banker. um, find out exactly what their requirements are for lending. Okay, what type of lending do they do? What's the required down payment? What's the credit score they require? You should know your FICO score. That's FICO. You can go online. There's a free score you can get. Be careful if it starts asking you for money. It's not the right one. The FICO score you will pay for, but the credit report, you can get 3 free credit reports a year because you can get one from each credit bureau. Get all 3 of them because it'll help you see exactly what's on your credit report because it does vary. Okay, so once you decide what you want, you've got an idea, get in front of the right lender. Ask them the questions. You're interviewing them because you don't even want to do an application until you find out. First of all, do you lend to my type business? Do you lend to businesses that have been in business less than 2 years? Okay, or less than a year? Do you require collateral? What's your minimum credit score you require a business to have? You need to have all of this information before you determine, okay, I'm gonna fill in an application with this person. And a lot of times know that they're not going to discourage you for filling out that application because by law they can't say, no, we can't take your application. So you'll have to get the information and listen for the clues and the signs and determine who you want to fill out an application and present it to. And most good bankers, if you get a good relationship with them, they're not going to just tell you no, but they're going to tell you what you can do to make this happen or what other options are out there for you. So it's a lot of it's also based on research, conversation, and building a relationship. Hopefully
All
that was
right.
helpful.
Does SCORE help with branding?
With branding,
Mhm.
yes, they do. There again, the marketing piece.
Mhm.
When you're thinking about your marketing, you're looking at your branding, you're thinking about eventually your websites, you're thinking about business cards, you're thinking about everything. So there again, each entity has industry specific experts. So if it's marketing or specifically branding, you call them actually, and you tell them, here's what I want. They'll have you fill out the intake form, and then from that point, they'll set the appointment.
There's
Okay.
also an opportunity for you to kind of look through the online website of for SCORE And the individual mentors are online, and you can see their profile, so you can get an idea before you actually call and set up any appointments or want to learn more about the individual or the program itself, SCORE. You can identify a person that has the specific expertise or skill set in marketing, and these are all experienced, seasoned business owners, right? They've been there, done that. They've made all the mistakes, and now they want to share it with you so that you don't have to make those mistakes. So you can look online through SCORE, and you can actually filter it by location. So if you want a mentor that's in your backyard, in your neighborhood, you can look for those individuals, but also make sure that you also put in the expertise that you're looking for. And in this case, it sounds like marketing and branding.
Exactly.
Okay. I heard you say register your business with the Tarrant Appraisal District. Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, so if you go to the Tarrant Appraisal District website, there's a link on their website that says, I think it says procurement or purchasing. And if you click on that link, it takes you to a form. And it's kind of like when you register to do business with the city, how we have you fill out a little form. They have a form too. And so you fill that form out and you give them all the details about your business, what kind of goods, service, professional service, or construction activity you provide. Sometimes they'll ask you for a commodity code or a NAICS code that goes, NAICS is an acronym that stands for North American Industry Code System. And it helps organizations identify with a number exactly what you do. And so you put that information in, and then that's how they know when they have an open bid in one of those 73 jurisdictions, they can contact you and they say, oh, she has a matching NAICS code or he has a matching NAICS code, and we're bidding on a project where we would need that service. Let's see if they're interested, and they'll send you the notification about an upcoming or a current bid.
And the important fact to piggyback on what Christina, the Standard Industrial Code, the NAICS code, you must know that code, and you can drill it down to as specific as you need to be. And if you do multiple things, you probably have several NAICS codes, but you have to list every code for every scope of work that you're able to do. Because if you don't list it and, oh, I can do that, I'm qualified to do that, but you don't have that code listed, you've probably just lost that opportunity. So know your codes.
So to wrap things up today, I have a question, but so coming out of the pandemic, we're past a lot of, I hope we're past, past all of that. So coming out of the pandemic, what do you think are the top priorities that a business equity firm should do now?
Oh gosh, I will. I'll start out, and then Cheryl can add to this. I think one of the things that the pandemic has really shown us is the level of innovation and ingenuity that's actually out there, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. And so we've seen so many really creative solutions to business problems that have come out of the pandemic, just strictly because either people lost their jobs and that forced them to, like, okay, you know what? I've always really wanted to just bake cupcakes. So they have really dived into secret passions that they kept on the back burner for so long. And so what I would say is, like, this is the time for you to really reevaluate this. You know, if you're in a dead-end job and you really hate what you do, but there's something that you would do whether you got paid for it or not, maybe that's where you should think about starting a business. And as Cheryl mentioned, we have so many resources right here in Fort Worth, over at the back, the Business Assistance Center, that can really help you take an idea and a dream and make it into a thriving business that really helps support our local economy. So I would just say go for your dreams.
I totally agree. I ditto everything Christina said. This is the opportunity to dig out your passions, your skills, your abilities. Take the time to really focus, research, zone in. If you're already in a business, look at ways to diversify, to add on new product or services, take your business online, add little pieces to it so that you can survive if something, things like this happen. This is the opportunity to think, be creative, let those creative juices flow. And then say at the same time, keep an eye and focus on your mental health as well, because that's important. It can't happen without you. And like I tell everybody, the difference in someone like all these rich and famous men that created all these things, and made all the money and things like that, Gates and you name them all. Basically, they had an idea and they researched it and they acted on it. So won't happen unless you take action.
All right. Well, we have run over a bit, so thank you everyone who stuck around. I think this was really, really, really good information and definitely worth an extra 8 minutes. So thank you everyone. If you still have any questions, feel free to reply to the reminder email that came from me, and I'm happy to forward your questions on to Cheryl and Christina. And on that note, thank you so much, Christina, Cheryl. It's always a pleasure working with diversity and inclusion. Such a great partner. So thank you so much. I hope to work with you again soon. And just thanks for everything with the library. We appreciate it so much.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.